Hi, in today's video, I will show you how to add customers in QuickBooks. And this is part of our larger series of working with customers in QuickBooks Online. Now, my name is Bryce Tubbs, and welcome to our virtual accounting strategies tutorial YouTube channel. Now, my mission on this channel is to create the most complete bookkeeping and QuickBooks series on the internet. Now, we are helping two types of people. The first are accountants and bookkeepers who are looking to start or grow their business. We have a mentorship program where we walk you through from A to Z of starting your business towards making six figures per year. Now, the second type person is for our accounting firm, Virtual Accounting Strategies, where we help business owners with bookkeeping and taxes. Now, if you're interested in learning more about how we can help you in either one of those services, please check out the link inside the description to book a call, see if we can help you. Okay, now jumping into the screen share.
So we are getting ready to start talking a little bit about accounts receivables portion of QuickBooks. So if you're not familiar with that term, anything having to do with like customers in your business, that's called accounts receivable. So customers are people or businesses that buy from you. Now you're typically going to make a sale, and that's going to be income to your business. Now we need to talk first of all about how the customer list is set up, and once we do that, we'll go into the second section. I'll show you how to add some customers to this list. Now, the way you're going to do this is to get a list of all of your customers. Is to go over to your navigation bar on the left. So point of sales, and then you'll see customers in the list. At the very top of your customer list here, you can see the dollar amount for any of these categories. You can see that for open invoices, I have 35,810. These invoices that have been created, these are invoices that have been created. The customer has not paid them. So even if they owe like a penny, if you had any of this amount that was overdue, you would see that over here. And overdue means that if you had set like specific items and terms on the invoice, let's say like net 30, meaning that an invoice was due 30 days after the customer, and the customer is like not paid by then some of this moves over into the overdue category. Now you can also see how much was paid in the last 30 days. In this case, it's nothing. So there's also a dollar amount for what we call unbilled activity for estimates. Now sometimes you will get little messages like you see right here above like your actual customer list. And you can close those with the little X in the right corner. And then you can actually see like the list. So the customer list is set up in alphabetical by last name. So you'll notice that when you look down this list, the list is set up alphabetically. Now, by last name, comma, first name. And you'll want to do that because it's a lot easier to find someone when you're looking for them, if it's set up that way. Now, obviously, businesses like Adam's Candy Shop would not have a last name and a first name, so it's just short of the first letter, which is A, in this case, with the A's in the list. If you see a little envelope to the right side of some of your customers, that means that if you click them, you can actually send that customer an email. Now, if their email address was set up when you actually set up the customer, then it would pull it like you see here. If not, you're going to notice that there's no envelope, meaning that you have not put in a customer email address inside of the customer information. Now, these are what we call sub-customers. Now, sometimes they're called jobs, sometimes they're called projects. In the online version, the technical term is a sub-customer, and they're both sub-customers in this particular case of Mike Ballack. Now, you can also see the customer's phone number and the open balance, meaning how much money the customer owes you. Now, there's also a column for actions. If you happen to be on this screen, and you'd like to take one of these actions related to this customer, you could do that. For example, you could go ahead and create a statement or an invoice right from here. Just know that you're not always going to be on the screen when you want to do those things, so there are other ways to do those actions as well. Notice that you can actually also search up the customer right here. So if you wanted to look for Mike Ballack, for example, you can start typing the last few characters of their name, and you'll see that it pops up in the list. Now, over on the right-hand side, you have the ability to print a list of your customers. You can also export this file to Excel if you'd like. And there's also some settings, and I want to kind of click on those for a moment because I want to show you that these are going to be the columns that you set up here. Like if I'd like to set up like their email address and see their email address, I just choose that and notice how I now have a column for email. Or if I'd like to see their address, I can click on that and now I see their address as well. It's just how do you want to actually look at this list? Now another thing I'll mention, way back over on the left is where it says batch actions. Now, if you have multiple customers selected from the drop-down list, you can actually email all 3 of these customers, or you can make them inactive. Now, an inactive customer is a customer you've used in the past, therefore you can't delete them. But if you haven't seen them in a long time and you just want to hide them from the list, you can make them inactive. Now, that's a quick overview of the screen itself here. Now, what I'd like to do now is take you over into the second section and show you how to add a customer to the customer list. Now that you've gotten like a quick overview of what the customer looks like and how it works, we need to start adding some customers to this list. So let's go ahead and flip over to QuickBooks and I'll show you how to add your first customer. So if you're in the customer list, you'll notice in the top right hand corner, there's an option to add a new customer. There's also a down arrow to the right of that, because you can also choose to import customers. Now, what if you have a list of customers already set up in Excel? Now you can just import those so you don't have to set them up like one at a time. Now we're going to talk about importing customers from Excel over like in section 5 of this module. For now, I'm going to click on new customer. Now we're going to put in some customer information on this screen, and you'll notice the first thing it asks for is a company name. Now remember that a company can be our customer can be a company. A customer can also be an individual that works for a company, or it could just be an individual and there's no company at all. In that case, you wouldn't put anything in the company name field, but I'm going to go ahead and like put it in this customer's company. It's BRC Supplies. And you'll notice that because I typed it like a B, it starts pulling down a list of different companies that it's found and their addresses. So if I want to just choose one of these, I could. But since I'm typing this from scratch, I'm going to go ahead and just click over to the side somewhere, and then I can come back over and finish filling this out. Now this customer's name is Tom Allen, and notice it now has a display name as Tom Allen. And you can change that display name to show as the company name or last name, comma, like first name. Now, display name means the way that you see it in the list over here. Remember, we just talked about the easiest way to find customers is to type in the last name and comma the first name. Now, just to be consistent with however you decide to do it, it's also going to use the display name as the same way it's going to put their name on checks. It looks kind of funny if I write a check to like Allen, comma Tom, so I'm going to uncheck the box, and then I'm going to go put Tom Allen in that way. That's how checks will appear when we go and put his name in there, right? So over to the right, you see I can type I can like actually type in an email, and I'll just say Tom at Yahoo. You can also put in Tom's phone number, mobile, fax, other, and like website. Now, also, this is a subcontractor. I can check the box and choose the customer that he is a sub-customer of. Now, we're actually going to do that in section 4. Now, notice I'm on the address tab, and this is where like I'm going to put in the billing address. I'm going to go ahead and say he's like at 123, and we're going to say this is Billings Road, or just a hypothetical address. And this is going to be in the city of Bayshore, California. The state's California, and the zip code is 94326. The country will just say is USA, right? Now, you'll notice that the shipping address is the exact same as the billing address. If you don't ship anything, you don't have to worry about that. But if you do, they may want the invoices going to one address and the actual things you're shipping going to a different address. You can uncheck that box and change the information if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and hit like save, and let's see if Tom Allen is in the list. So he should be, and here's like Allen, comma Tom, and he is. Okay, so you can see it right over here. Now, I want to mention a couple things. When you're in this list, you have a customer that you accidentally put in, and you just can't delete that customer. The online version of QuickBooks actually lets you make a customer inactive, meaning that you hide them from the list, but you can't delete them, unfortunately. Now, what you're going to see is a list of all information you had said about like Tom Allen. Now, notice a couple things. You can add some notes if you want to this customer's record. So I'll just click like add notes just to show you. And let's just say that we can put in here, this is a new customer for like the year like 2020, for example. And that's a note, right? That's all I have to do here. And now that will show up anytime you want to see that. Now notice also there's a tab for the transaction list down here. And obviously we have no transactions yet, but as we start creating like invoices, receiving payments and that sort of thing, like they'll show up right down there here. So the projects. Now, these are going to be the jobs we actually do for the customers. Now, there aren't any set up here yet. We can actually see the customer details also. Now, this is where we've got all the information we had just set up for this customer. And then also, if there were any like late fees, you would see them listed here as well. And that's how you set up a new customer. So I'm going to hit this customer's link here in the top left, and that'll take me back to the list of customers. And notice Tom Allen has an envelope to the right, because we did put an email address for Tom Allen. And that's pretty much how you go put in like a new customer. Now, what I want to do now is take you over into like section 3, and I'm going to show you how to add a sub customer. Like now that you know how to add a customer, let's talk about how to add a sub customer or sub customers. A sub customer is basically just going to be a way of adding a level underneath your main customer. And if you have different jobs that you work on for like a particular customer, you can actually separate those jobs actually by creating sub customers. Then you can look at reports for the entire customer, but also per sub customer, right? Because it's a job in this case. Now in this desktop version of QuickBooks, they actually call these jobs, right? Sometimes they're called projects. And here, like I said, the terminology here in this case is sub customer. Now let me show you how to set those up. So to create a sub customer, we're going to use the new customer button because it is a new customer setting up. Now they're just a sub of another one we already have existing. So when this comes up, all you want to do is just put the display name. Now you can see in their case they're actually using street addresses. So I'm just gonna make one up like 124, and this will be like Scottsdale Drive. And the only other thing that you want to do is come over here where it says is subcontractor, and underneath it pick the customer you want to apply it to. Now you can also see it says bill with parent over to the right, and you do want to keep this actually together. So you can also bill this customer individually. So we're going to leave it on like bill with parent, and you'll see that it actually pre-populated all of this information from a sub customer, Tom Allen setup, right? So we don't really need to change any of this unless it happens to be different. We're just going to hit save, and that's going to be our next level that we've created. So you can see right over here, and that's all there is to creating a sub customer. Now, a couple of things you need to know. If you're using the sub customer feature and you want to use it consistently throughout QuickBooks, if you don't, let's say that you're like working on some transaction, instead of picking like 124 Scottsdale, I picked Tom Allen. It's still going to go to the right main customer, but on reports you'll see other, and you'll kind of know what's going on. And if you want to make sure that you put it in the correct sub customer, right? Because if you're using the sub customer's option, it's important. Now, not every business will use the sub customer option, but it's really great if you do need to break it out into like different projects, like I kind of said, or maybe you have different locations for a particular customer or things like that. Now, that's really all there is to working with sub customers. So let's go ahead now and move over into section 4, and I'll show you how to edit an existing customer. So once you have a customer set up, you're going to realize that all you need to edit some of the information. And maybe you actually set up the information wrong, or it could be that the customer information has changed. So maybe like they've moved, or they have like a new address, and you want to add like a website. So you can always go in and edit like the information about your customers, and it's a pretty easy process. So let me go and show you how that works. So if you want to edit a customer's information, make sure you click on your customer over in the customer list, and then come over here and choose edit this option. So let's say that Tom's email really includes his last name. Now I'm going to go ahead and add Allen. So let's say that when we set this up, we did not look at any of these tabs. So let's go through those real quick. And so that you'll see and you'll know what other types of information you might want to set up when you're setting up your customers. So we've looked at the address tab. Now let's take a peek at the notes. So this is where you can add any notes that would be pertaining to this customer. The best thing to do is just drop down after the previous note, pop in the date, and then pop in any notes that you might have pertaining to this particular customer. Now, the third tab says tax info. Now, this has to do with collecting sales tax from your customer. If you sell physical items and you charge sales tax, you're going to need to tell QuickBooks that this customer is taxable and what the default tax code is. So, we're going to be talking about we're going to be talking about sales tax later on, but just to give you a heads up, what you're going to have to do is where you're setting up the items or the different things you sell, they actually call them products and services in here. And then that's what's going to happen is you're going to set up each sales tax you need to collect, and then you'll group them together and create one big tax so that you're charging the customer correctly. And that's where you would put in like the tax code. So let's say it just happens to be like San Domingo, right? We'll just choose that. And now what'll happen is that when we invoice a customer, it'll put in the tax code automatically. The next one is paying and billing. So a lot of this is just information for you. So like first of all, preferred payment method. Does this customer usually like to pay you with cash, check, barter, MasterCard, etc.? You can kind of see the list there. And if you need to add a new way that the customer can pay, like maybe PayPal, Square, you can just hit add new right here. You can actually type in the name of the new payment method and then hit save. Now, PayPal will be on the list since I just added it. It does not mean that the customer pays you with PayPal every single time. It just means that their preferred way that they typically like to pay you is PayPal. So how do they like to have their invoices sent to them? Do they like to have them printed and you can like print them on like later? Or do they like to have them sent via email where you can send those later? Or do they not really have a preference? Next is terms, right? You can have different due dates, terms per customer. So if you have a really good customer, you might want to have like net 30. If you have a customer that's like brand new, you might say due upon receipt. Now, let me tell you why you have this opening balance field here. As of the start date of your company like file, how much money did this customer owe you? So let's say it's like $1,000. Now you could plug that in and the accounting would be correct, but you would not have a way to go back and see there's actually 3 separate invoices you sent that total about 8,000. Now I like to go back and put each invoice in that the customer still owed me, and like that does not fill this in, you know what I mean? So whichever way works for you will be fine as long as the numbers come out correctly. And then of course, if you put an opening balance, you would put in like the date that would be as of which would really be the start date of the company file. Now the next tab over says like language. Now this will default to English, but if you like to send your invoices to the customers in like French, Spanish, Italian, like you can see the list there. Now you can also attachments for this customer. So what this would be is, let's say you had some sort of file that you actually created, or it could be a bill that you received something related to this customer. So instead of having to go, get out of QuickBooks and search your computer for that file, you'll be able to open it right here from QuickBooks because it will be attached. Now if I click on attachments here, it will allow me to search my computer and find that file and attach it here. Now the last tab says additional info. So you might have different ways you like to categorize your customer. You'll notice that they have commercial customers and residential customers, but you can set up this list in any way that you like. And that's going to be how those tabs work right there. All you have to do is, like, when you've changed all information, is hit save. And that information is now going to be saved in QuickBooks. Now, one quick thing I'd like to mention to you, especially about sales tax, if you have a customer you set up where you charge a certain tax and later you go back and like edit the information and change it, it's not going to go back to any prior invoices and change that sales tax. Right? It's only for the new ones you create at this point forward. So, well, that's how you're going to edit your customers. And now let's go ahead and move over into section 5. And I'll talk to you a little bit about like making customers inactive. So one of the things you can do in QuickBooks is with any list you're working in, whether it be customers, chart of accounts, vendors, it really doesn't matter. If you have an item on that list that you'd like to temporarily hide from that list, you can make it inactive. Now, an inactive customer, sorry, actually will not show up when you are looking in other areas of QuickBooks. But if you want to actually turn them back on, you could go and activate them again, right? So let me go and show you how to make that customer inactive, and then you'll know how to do it when you're like, working, on other lists in QuickBooks as well. So let's say that I want to make Edward Blackwell inactive. Now notice that Edward still owes me like $1,125. Now I wouldn't want to make him inactive because I'm going to be using this customer, right? So he's going to make a payment, and I'll need to be able to apply the money. Typically, if you make a customer inactive, if you haven't seen them for a while, maybe it's just because someone you set up and like maybe you never use them, right? Those would be the reasons to make a customer inactive. Now, let me show you what happens if you try to make Mr. Blackwell inactive and he still owes you money. I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit, and here's where you go to make the customer inactive. Now, this message is telling me that Edward still owes me money. He has a non-zero balance, and if I say yes and make him inactive, then QuickBooks will create an adjusting entry so he doesn't owe me money anymore. Now I'm going to click yes, and you'll notice there's a little error message, and that's because the customer has what's called a recurring template that's being used. Anytime you have like something recurring, you have to actually go delete this reoccurrence of whatever that is before you can go and delete the customer in this case. Now, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel at the bottom, and let's just use a different customer, like maybe for example Tom Allen, because he doesn't owe us any money since we just set him up. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Tom Allen, then I'm going to click on the right and hit edit. So I'm going to make him inactive, and now it tells me that Tom has sub-customers or projects. Making him inactive will also make all of his sub-customers and projects inactive, and that's what you want. So I'm going to click yes, and now you'll notice it says Tom Allen is deleted. So just a little FYI, QuickBooks does not have a feature to delete anything from a list, right? In this case, a customer. If you wanted to, quote unquote, delete them, you have to make them inactive, and they're still not really deleted because they show up in the list. They're just hidden so you can always like activate them again, right? Now, if you notice over here, it says make active. That's how I go back and activate my customer again at a later date. Now I'm going to click make active, and now you'll see over here, it does not say deleted, but notice the sub customer does. And you'll want to repeat that process with your sub customer. So select them from the left and make them active. And that's a quick overview of how to make your customers inactive. So moving on, we got one more thing to cover, and that is in this particular module. I want to talk to you in section 6 about importing existing lists of customers that you might already have into QuickBooks. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is in module 4 is how to import your customers into QuickBooks. Now, you might already have a list of customers in Excel, for example, or like in a CSV file, and it would be really nice to be able to just kind of import them into QuickBooks instead of just having to enter them at one time. So you'll need to set them up like in a certain way, and I want to go ahead and pull up the Excel file that I have so you can see like how it's set up. So even if you don't have the field the exact same, you can map them once you go through the import process. But let me go ahead and pull up the Excel file and show it to you. Then I'll pull up the QuickBooks and we'll go through and import those customers. So here I have a list of 3 customers that I'd like to pull in from this Excel spreadsheet into QuickBooks. And you'll notice that I've got them set up by name, company name, email, phone number, and you'll see the list here. Now, those are the names of the fields that are in QuickBooks. Now, QuickBooks that you want to like pull information into, right? So if you can set it up this way, that's the best way to do it. But you can also map the fields if you want once you get inside of QuickBooks. But I just wanted you to see this so you would know exactly how to set it up. And I make sure that you save it somewhere that you can pull it in like in a pretty easily if you like want to go look for it. So let me go ahead and flip over to QuickBooks, and we'll put in like John, Ellen, and Doris. So all you need to do is make sure on the customer list and go up to the down arrow next to the new customer, choose import customers. Now here's where you're going to select your Excel or CSV file that you currently have your customers in. So in this case, mine is called customer list, and I'll just choose that, and you can see it brought that file in. So now all I have to do is go like click next at the bottom, and here I can map fields to the fields that are like in QuickBooks. Now you'll notice that the first column are the names of the QuickBooks field, and over here like will be the names of the fields you had in your file. So if the names don't match exactly like this one says name, but like maybe in your Excel sheet, like one of the sheets says like first name, for example, then you would choose it from the down arrow. If there's not really a match, like company, for example, that's when I look into like my Excel sheet. Like I did not have one called company, and I'll just say, you know, no match, and it won't be able to pull anything in. So the ones with the check mark that you see are like the ones actually have a match to the QuickBooks field. So it sees the exact same name that it sees over in your Excel spreadsheet in this particular case. So once you're finished going through that list, you want to go ahead and click next to the bottom. And you'll see that there is 3 customers now that are ready to be imported. If I had a lot of these, I could go in and like search for these by filtering and typing in the name of that customer. That's going to be pulling in like ones that have like check marks next to them. So I'm going to go ahead and like import all of those. I'll just choose import at the bottom, and now you'll see that it's been like brought in those 3 specific customers. So let's first of all look at like Mr. Stewart. We're going to go down the list here. You'll notice that here is John Stewart, and he was the first one on our list. So it's not been imported like all the information that was on our Excel spreadsheet. Well, that's going to wrap up our module 4. Okay, so we've talked a lot about customers, and now that we have our customers in, we can move over to like module 5 and talk about sales transactions using these customers. If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe to get notified about similar videos inside these different like courses and different series we have. Now also, if you want some help going to grow your business, like maybe you're thinking about starting a bookkeeping business, or maybe you're already growing a bookkeeping business but just not quite growing the way you want it, go ahead and click the link inside of the description. Click the link to basically book a call with myself to see if we can help you inside of one of our programs, okay? And if you want to learn a little bit more, click the link. I'll see you on the call. Talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day. Take it easy.